How's it going, guys? For quite some time, I have had a few legal questions that I have never been able to get any kind of an answer to. And that is these questions are surrounding the Fourth Amendment and the Second Amendment and the relationship that I believe that those two have to one another. As someone who enjoys reading history, and that's actually been one of my majors at college, believe it or not, I did go to college. Uh, if you look at the revolutionary period within our country, you can see many of the reasons why the founders had actually written many of the amendments the way that they did. In fact, if you read a lot of the writings, it will shed even much more light onto why they wrote the amendments the way that they did. And the Second and the Fourth Amendments are quite unique for a few reasons, which all of them are extremely important. But these are the two that I have some questions about that never can get answered. The Fourth Amendment, the entire purpose of the Fourth Amendment, which has been verified by the courts, it is a right to privacy. That is something that has been established by the legal system, that the Fourth Amendment, that you must have a warrant to search someone's home, that sort of thing, their property. And we have seen that it is a right to privacy. It's without question. That's what the Fourth Amendment is. And if you look at the reasons why the founders wrote the Fourth Amendment into the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is because of all of the searches that were happening during the period by the British. They would just, if they wanted to search someone's home, they'd just go into it. They would write their own security letters, like today writing what they're calling national security letters or whatever they want to call it today, to where they can just go in and search someone's property. And one of the reasons that the founders wrote that in there, one of the things they would do is they actually hid their weapons. There was a lot of searches during the Revolutionary period of, looking for firearms, for illegal firearms. The British tried to confiscate a lot of the firearms from the founders of our country. Didn't work out too well for them, did it? But the Second Amendment is a guarantee of our rights as individuals, which again have been reaffirmed by the courts, to possess firearms. And my question is, and this plays into some of the registration that some places have done. I don't understand how that government, based upon these two amendments, can then go in and require people to register their firearms. That's a very slippery slope, in my opinion. I know that several years ago, up in Connecticut and a few other places, New York, a few places, they actually passed laws requiring people who owned ARs to register those. And that is something that I believe should be challenged, which I'm sure that it has, but you don't really hear much about it. And based upon the Fourth Amendment and the Second Amendment, it is a simple thing for someone like me. Of course, I'm not a lawyer, and I think that is one of the problems there is, lawyers will overcomplicate things in many occasions just to where the average person can't understand it. And I believe that our Bill of Rights were written so the average person could understand it. And since then, we got the lawyers involved, and who can understand half of what they say anyways? Just read any kind of a legal document these days. And I have never understood why that the registration of a legally owned piece of property is something that can be done. I don't understand it. If one of you guys are out there who may be involved in the legal community, if you have an understanding, let me know. I'd like to hear from you. I do not understand why these laws are allowed to stand, and I also don't understand why we don't see more from the NRA on them challenging these laws. Now, if you haven't seen my video on the NRA, check it out. I'll leave a link up here at the top. But I'm a supporter of the NRA. I'm a member. I'm a recruiter for the NRA. I also am an instructor for the NRA. But at the same time, I think that this is something that the NRA needs to be pulling into court. We need to challenge these kinds of unjust laws within the legal system. And it is just not something that I don't understand, and I'd like to know more about it myself. I think it is a threat in many ways, because if you look to history in general, every time there is major firearms confiscation in any nation, one of the first things that they do before the confiscation is registration. Historically, whenever there is registration, 100% of the time, there is always confiscation eventually. That is just historical fact. That's one of the reasons why I strongly oppose any kind of firearms registration or anything like that. And I'm sure that someone is going to mention something about, well, you have to register your car with the government. And that is, again, another good question. Why do we have to register private property with our government? But who knows? These are questions that most of us just may never get an answer to. But if you are someone who is in the legal community or something like that, I'd like to hear from you. Also, guys, share your thoughts on it. Do you think that we should have to register our personal property with the government? Do you think that we have, based upon the Fourth and the Second Amendment, do you think that we have the right to tell them to take a hike? I'm not telling anyone to do anything illegal or anything like that, but these are questions that I think need to be talked about. This is a topic that I think is something that we should be debating. I'm not a fan of it. Of course, where I'm at, fortunately, we do not have that problem where I live at. But I do see it. I see people. I have friends in other states. I've got, a couple of friends out in California, in just other parts of the country that I have met through social media, and they talk about the horrors and the hoops that you have to jump through in order just to purchase a firearm. And then again, if you own certain types of firearms, the way that you have to register them and that sort of thing. And I just thought that it was a topic that we need to discuss. Anyways, guys, let me hear from you. Drop me any comments down below, and just let me hear from you guys. Talk to you later.